Hi, my name is Anne Marie, and I'm here from Teacher to Teacher Help. And today I'm going to share with you my best tip for helping students who constantly say, I can't think of anything to write about. So, Ralph Fletcher wrote this book called A Writer's Notebook, Unlocking the Writer Within You. And in this book, he gives tons of tips for living like a writer based on his own experiences as a writer. And I want to read to you one quote from this book, from the first chapter. Here's what Ralph says: "Writers are like other people, except for at least one important difference. Other people have daily thoughts and feelings, noticing this sky or that smell, but they don't do much about it. All those thoughts, feelings, sensations, and opinions pass through them like the air they breathe. Not writers. Writers react. And writers need a place to record those reactions." So Ralph shares how he uses a writer's notebook as a tool for recording those reactions. But I want to talk about just that quote, just that idea that writers live differently than the rest of the world. So when I read that, I thought, how can I, in my classroom, help my students look at life through the eyes of a writer every day, noticing things that happen around them, and then putting out that invitation, hey, that might be something good to write about. So I started doing something that I just call a running topics board. And what I did was just designated one spot in the classroom. It could be just a small whiteboard, or it could be chart paper. I like doing it on a dry erase board. This is just a portable one here, but you could designate a spot on your whiteboard that just says our topics. I don't put anything else on it. And then I listen. I listen when students come in the morning and they're pulling up their pant leg to show me the injury that they just got on their knee because they fell off their longboard the night before. Or they come in and they want to show me with a big grin the loose tooth that they have, or maybe the hole where the tooth that came out yesterday had been. So usually what I notice happens is one student shares a story like this, and then pretty soon there's a crowd that gathers around, and then everyone is lifting up their pant legs or telling their loose tooth stories. And so I've learned to just listen to those moments that seem to resonate with lots of students, and then say, wow, that would be a great thing to write about. I'm going to go add that to our topics board. Now I like to keep it general so that lots of students can use these topics. So this is an example of some of the topics that always come up. They want to talk about their injuries. So I'll put a time that I got hurt, or a good one is a time that I was scared, or those famous loose tooth stories. So I don't have any time frame for filling this up. I just listen. And as students share these stories that seem to resonate, then I will just jot that up. But then I followed up with an invitation, not an assignment, but an invitation that sounds something like this. Wow, it seems like lots of us are experts on injuries. I wonder if we could write about some of those times when. It's really important to put the word times when instead of being scared or getting hurt. If we want students to write actual stories that have beginnings, middles, and ends, those small moments, those personal narratives, it's important to put that word times when, and then invite students to do that. I have been amazed over and over again how just listening to my students first and then putting out that invitation, I wonder if we could write about that. And then, of course, I always celebrate if I notice that a student actually uses the topics board to write about something in their notebook. It might turn into an actual piece of writing that they publish, or it might just live inside their notebook for a long time or forever. But anytime I notice that they're using that topics board as a springboard for generating their own topics, then I will notice and name that. It's called a compliment. I'll make it public. That's a public compliment. I call it making a child famous. And what happens when I make a child famous for trying out something on the running topics board? Well, usually what happens is more and more students will do that. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm increasing the likelihood that more and more of my students will try that strategy out. Now, when the board gets filled up, and I like to keep it pretty small so that it gets filled up quickly, we will erase it. But before I erase it, I will say, so I'm getting ready to erase our topics board. Would you look up there and see, is there a topic that you think you might have a story that you might want to write about someday, but you haven't written about it yet? Go ahead and write it on your personal writing topics list or your personal writing territories so that you don't forget, because I'm going to erase the board so that we can make space for new ideas. I like to keep it purposely small so that engagement stays high. Students are always looking to that board, and because it gets erased, it stays fresh and new. And it gives me an opportunity to refer to it often by saying, did you find anything there that you want to write about but you haven't written about yet? Go ahead, take action and write that in your writing territories so that you don't forget that idea. All right, so that's one of my best ideas. It's so easy, so simple, and all I have to do is open my ears. I've found that it's also a great way for me to just build relationships with students and let them know I'm hearing them and that their ideas are important and should be written down and then shared with an audience perhaps someday.